gonna analyze Dragon Age.
Origin.
Oh, Dragon Age. It's like my favorite game.
Dude, you better be doing the golem.
I mentioned them.
Nice. Love the golem. Such a tank.
Alright, you ready?
Yeah.
Alright.
I start out with the video.
Okay. Alright, everybody, turn your attention over to Colt, please.
I'm gonna play a quick video real quick and then do my PowerPoint.
I was making sure the camera's on you, but.
We bear a sacred burden. For an age, we have protected the lands of men. But now, light is upon us. We dare not falter. Regardless of race, noble or commoner, the best must take up our banner to save us all from annihilation. We are the Grey Wardens. Join us.
That was weird.
Good fun.
I don't. It's different on my screen. Okay, so that video kind of got me pumped up, made me want to play again. But so I'm going to talk about Dragon Age, and specifically, I'm going to talk about the story. Some games, they focus on creating an epic feeling where you just run around, shoot stuff, fight enemies. Other games, they focus on making it look really pretty and they try to get the best graphics. So like games like Call of Duty for the running around shooting stuff and the feeling powerful. And games like Far Cry and Skyrim try to make it really pretty. But other games focus on having the best story that they can have. And the game that I think has the best story overall is Dragon Age Origins. So, with the story, you're one of the last remaining Grey Wardens in Ferelden, and you have to travel around the country and rally all your friends and all the different races so that they can help you fight the Blight. So you're just thrown into a world that you don't really know anything about, and as you're traveling and finding new people and getting allies, you learn more and more about the world and all the things that are within it, like demons and magic and all that stuff. And the story is made more personal because it gives you choices. Like every time you do anything, you can choose to do one thing over the other, and that affects the outcome of the game. And it's also brought to life by the character development with all your companions and the different side characters, and through the introduction to the world. With choice, as soon as you hit new game, you're already given a bunch of choices. You can choose to be male or female. There's 3 different races you can choose from. And then 3 classes for each of the races, except for dwarves, because they can't use magic.
No.
Yeah, poor dwarves.
Do they have guns?
No.
Colt, what are you doing on screen?
Yeah, that's me if I was really short. And then there's 2 different choices of, like, I forgot the word.
Origin story?
Yeah, of your origin story. Apparently that was on the next slide. Yeah. So as I just said, you have 3 races, 3 classes, and 2 backgrounds per race. And the game hasn't really even started. You're just making your character. And these choices determine how characters will treat you in the game. Some characters don't like elves, others don't like dwarves. If you're a lower class dwarf, you won't be liked by the higher class dwarves. There's just so much, just right off the bat, you make one choice and the game is completely different later on. And as the game progresses, you're given more and more choices, and even in the end, you are presented with one final choice, and that determines whether you'll die or live in the final battle.
Hey!
Who hasn't played before? Oh.
Wow.
no.
That's like everybody.
No.
There's spoilers in this.
No.
Quite a few.
Spoiled, dude.
It's alright if the game's more than a few years old.
Yeah, it's like 07?
Yeah.
It's all about how
Had
you
plenty
make
of
the
time.
choices.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, there you go.
Yeah, there's all kinds of choices that lead up to that choice, and you might not even have that choice if you don't do certain things. Aside from the choices, we're going to talk about character development next. All the members of your party change throughout the game. There's 5 people, a golem, and a dog in your party, and they all change. The dog doesn't really change, he kind of always loves you, but you can make him go away.
Who would do
I don't know. I was always trying to figure that out too. I didn't understand why that was there.
that?
The dog's the best part. Each character has their own story, their own background, and as you get to know them, you can ask them more questions and get to know them better. They'll tell you their life story. And if you become close enough with them, they'll give you a quest to go do some small task. I guess I'll keep it kind of spoiler-free. And that'll make you like them even more. And you can even develop, like, intimate relationships with characters.
What's your favorite character side story? Or side quest or whatever?
Go ahead.
I really like Morgan's side story, and I do talk about that.
Okay.
With spoilers.
No, I'm never gonna play.
So this is like the first character you meet besides Alistar. Do you meet Alistar? Yeah, you meet him first.
Well, I guess it kind of depends
Yeah,
on your origin story,
yeah.
right?
This is one of the first companion characters that you meet. Her name's Morgan. She's a witch of the wild. When you first meet her, you don't really know if you can trust her because everyone that's with you is like, oh, witch of the wild, be careful, they're dangerous. And as the game progresses, you learn more and more about her, and if you choose to be friendly with her, you find out that she's more than just a witch. She's a person too, and she had a hard life and didn't really want to live the life that she lived. But everyone else in your party is still like, oh, I don't know if I can trust her. And during her companionship quest, you make a choice that determines the outcome of her future. I guess I kind of did keep the spoiler for that.
If you don't have a romance with her, do you feel like you can trust her? If you go through her story?
What was the question?
If you don't, like, because she's one of the romanceable characters,
Oh, yeah.
and, like, at least for me anyway, like, I was a little uncertain about her all the way through.
Yeah, you're kind of uncertain, and then especially with the final choice right before the last battle, you don't really want to go with her because she doesn't seem trustworthy, and it seems like she just wants to do it for herself.
Who cares?
Hey,
Yeah, that's kind of,
She disapproves of everything you do.
yeah.
She's a random chick. From
that's why you only improve your relationship with her when she's not in your party. You just leave her out the whole game and talk to her in the camp. So then she never goes down in friendship. And through the world, you're taken even further into the story. Ferelden is where it takes place. It's one country of an entire continent known as Thedas. and that's the only known continent. But some characters say there's, like Sten, he says there's continents further north. The country is occupied by humans, dwarves, elves, and the occasional Kunari. And the player gets to visit all of the different areas of the country, and while they travel the land looking for allies. You go to the Brazilian forest and visit the elves, and you get to see their way of life and all their traditions that they have. And you see some of the weird things that go on in the forest, like talking trees that want you to go do stuff for them, and they give you an acorn. And when you're looking for help from the mages, you visit the Circle Tower, and you get to experience what it's like to be a mage locked up in the tower with the Templars and other mages. And you see why some people distrust them because of their immense power, and if they give in to the darker side, you have a lot of trouble stopping them. In Orzammar, you get to see the dwarves. It's me again. And you see their caste system and how the lower class is treated. And you also get to experience their politics, and you actually get to give your input in their politics and decide who the next king will be. You also get to see all the different humans and how smaller towns, they don't really trust outsiders. Well, some people in the bigger cities, they don't approve of other races and other people accept everyone and don't treat anyone differently just because they're not human. So a game that has a full wiki page, like a really long wiki page, just about the different outcomes of the story, there had to have been a lot of work put into that. And through the use of player-made choices, character development among the players, among their party, and unfolding the world around them, Dragon Age Origins just has a huge story, and it just brings you back. When the game first came out, I personally played it, and only it, for like a year and a half, and played through it multiple times, and I never got bored.
Do you feel like you've seen everything there is to see?
I don't even have all the achievements yet.
Did you play Awakening?
Yes, I did. You haven't played Awakening yet? No, just do it.
I mean, I have a Game of the Year edition.
It's a really
I
good.
I had it when it first came out, and then I beat it, and then sold it, and then Awakening came out. Crap, sold it.
Get ready for a flood of questions at the end.
Oh yeah.
Because we're totally nerdy now.
I nerded out while I was doing this. Now I'm just going to show the wiki page.
Do you like Awakening, by the way?
I do like Awakening.
As good as the main campaign?
Not as good as the main campaign. It was really good on its own, but the main campaign, before Awakening came out, I played through it so many times, it's closer to me.
Okay.
So I can't really replace it with anything. And then these are all of the different outcomes that can happen in the epilogue, which is just when it's showing all the text on the screen. These are all the different things I can say about all the different factions, all the different characters, and everything else.
Spoiler warning for speed readers with photographic memories.
I'm going to try to go through it really fast so no one sees spoilers if they haven't played.
Spoilers. Oh god.
Holy cow.
Faster.
Everything I see is spoilers. I haven't even.
Yeah, I'm seeing Morgan's mom is a.
Yeah, there's a lot of bugs too.
H?
There's dragons?
I couldn't beat her, by the way.
No, there isn't.
Wait,
Technically, there isn't.
Oh my god.
So yeah, that's all the different things that can happen in the end.
Technically, they're
Portal
not dragons,
reference.
they're demons.
Saw that.
Yeah, something like that, right?
It depends on the
That's not a spoiler,
dragon.
that's what they are.
They're old gods.
You're looking up for dragons in the game, and you're like, oh, it's the
Another demon guy.
ruin.
Okay, we're demon
No.
guys.
There's still dragons.
So there's like 5 different things that can happen with just the dog in the end of the game.
Towers is so wonderful. God, Doji.
Yeah. So,
So
what was your favorite story?
my favorite story? Morgan's.
What about your favorite origin?
My favorite origin?
They all.
Choose wisely.
I really like the Daily Shelves
Mhm.
Yeah.
That right.
and the Mages. Those were the 2 I played the most. The
Which
ones
one
I-
was the Daily Shell story?
the ones in the wild, in the
Oh,
forest.
okay.
I really like that one because of how. Can I do spoilers?
That's like first 5 minutes of the game.
Yeah,
That's the one where you're like out hunting in the cave or
yeah.
something?
You go into the cave and then you're exposed to the corruption, and they think you're gonna die. But then they're like, "Oh, we'll make you a Grey Warden. That'll save you."
Yeah.
And I really like that one because of what happens with your friend who was in the cave with you
Hey,
later,
can you keep it over here, please?
and how he comes back later in the story.
And he's corrupted?
What?
Is he corrupted when he comes back?
I don't know.
I'll take that as a yes.
Yeah.
Did you like the City Elf story?
I like it. Not as much. I like how when you come back, everything's a little different, and everyone like treats you differently now.
That was during focus testing. That was the story that was considered the most risque. Like people weren't sure if it was suitable for the game or not because it's pretty dark, I guess.
Yeah.
Dude, it was awesome. Like the power. Yeah, video for awesome.
Yeah.
How did you feel about pacing?
About pacing.
In which context?
In he said that in some spots, like the towns are more linear, but there's a lot of exploration, like that. I should say in the buildings themselves. So the buildings, once you get in, they're not as linear, but the outside is pretty linear. You feel like they should have reversed it? To see the world more instead of just like.
Yeah, it would have been nice to be able to explore outside more. It is true that inside you explored a lot more, which is kind of weird. But like, I would have liked to see more of Dinram and more of Orzammar and just actually get a bigger view of all the cities in the outside world.
What do you think of the announced changes for Inquisition versus Dragon Age 2 versus Origins?
I don't really pay much attention to Inquisition.
Okay.
Like, I don't want to create a big hype because that's what I did to myself with Dragon Age 2, and it made me slightly disappointed.
Yeah.
So I wanted to just, like, I wanted to come out and I go on it not knowing anything.
I won't say too much then, but 1 was its thing, right? And then 2 kind of went in a different direction and alienated some fans, but it did some things maybe better. Inquisition's trying to straddle the line between the 2.
Yeah, I read something this morning, though, that Inquisition is supposed to be open world.
Yeah.
That'll
They
be
also removed
amazing.
like nerf healing you.
Wow.
I heard that because they want to focus more on very, very tactical strategy and being punished for taking damage. It was really cool.
That sounds interesting,
Should always go in with low expectations. The end game can be awesome every time.
Yeah.
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 It won't be like Fable.
Fable 3. Fable 3.
Or you could have high expectations and be
People
fascinated
choose
by everything no
what?
matter what.
Yeah.
It's just as fun.
Yeah.
So, you kind of highlighted some specific examples of like your major categories, like the story as a whole, the world, the characters, the origin stories, the meaningful choices, and all that. What would you say were the things that worked the best of those, and what were things that maybe could have used some revision?
I think character development was one of the best things because you do really get to see the characters grow, and you feel connected to them. So if anything happens to them, you would feel bad. And they kind of, to me at least, they almost feel like an extended family, even though it's in a video game. I thought choices were really good too, and there's a lot of choices, but some of them might not affect the story as much. But it's hard to do that. You have to keep track of everything while you're going through it all. So there could have been more impactful choices, but I think it was still good. And like I was talking about earlier, being able to actually go out and explore more of the world would have helped a lot more, and further immerse yourself in it. And the story, obviously, I think the story is perfect.
Yeah. What do you think? I mean, what are some of the best things about this story? Like, from a point of view of, it's a new world, and you're trying to introduce characters to this new world. So, what are some things that they do well on that end, toward that end? What made it so that you could jump into that pretty easily? I'll put it that way. Assuming you could jump into it easily, or did it take a couple playthroughs?
I guess when I first started, I played about halfway through and then stopped for a little bit, and then I tried again, and I really got into it that time. I guess just like when you're first introduced to some things, it doesn't seem that intriguing to you. But then as you actually get used to it more and they reveal more and more things about it, it pulls you in further, and then you want to learn more and just keep going on.
Do you think it was a good idea to, in the first game, have this major event where you have to unite all the races? I mean, in terms of introducing the world and having to go to all these different factions, it does force you to like explore a lot of unique areas, right?
Yeah.
Is that something that works?
I think it worked really well as an introduction to the world because you do get to go and see all the different races. You see where they live. You see how they live. So the entire thing is like an introduction. You're slowly introduced to all the different sections of the country and all the different races that live there. And then you can go on later in other games and just expand on their stories more. Mark?
For a story, I think I could narrow it down to, I guess, main events and quests that each and like not each and every player, but that the player had to come across, like you're forced to come across no matter what origin you were. For story and events and things like that, what do you think was the weakest thing or weakest storyline that you came across, and what do you think the strongest storyline that you came across in terms of like quests and stuff? If I could make an example, I thought the Circle Mage Tower, in my opinion, was one of the weakest.
The Fade?
Yeah, the Fade. It was that, and I didn't like the Bandit. It was really early on, the typical bandit on the bridge sort of event. I thought those were the weakest, and I thought the strongest points was like below Orzammar. Particularly, yeah, the Anvil and the Paragon of her kind. I thought that was a brilliant main story quest. So I'd just like to think what you thought was the strongest and weakest points.
The strongest, I'd have to agree on the tunnels after you go to Orzammar, because you're introduced to a lot there, and the feel's different than the rest of the game. It's darker, you're in closer corridors, there's enemies all over the place, and it feels like that really matters. What you're going to do there feels important. Weakest? I don't know. I kind of like the Mage Tower. I played that one a lot.
Yeah, I didn't like it because of the level design. You have to bounce from like area to area, like through dreams, and you go back to that single map. I probably like the story. I didn't played the game for a long time, but I think I hated that level particularly because of that sort of area setup where you have to like just click an area and load.
Yeah.
Something like that. But
There was a lot of changing in that.
yeah, I don't
It was a
remember
lot.
the story too much about the play. I just remember that I didn't like it too well.
You get all your stat upgrades there, though.
Really.
Yeah.
It's like that. It's like that and Mass Effect, to where like everything's surprising me again because I haven't played it in such a long time. But I know there's good things in it. I have no idea what the fade was. I just have bad memories.
For me, weakest, I'd probably have to go with the one that I don't really remember anything about, and that would be the origin story of the lower caste wars. I don't know if I ever even completed a full playthrough on them.
Oh.
Just because in the beginning I didn't like the feeling of being treated badly, you're almost a bad guy in the beginning because you're working with like the cartel.
Yeah.
I didn't like that in a game where you're supposed to be the hero. Nick?
Where was that? Alright, so the very first dragon I saw, he was on like a snowy mountain. I forgot the name of it.
It was,
You know what I'm talking about, right?
yeah.
Do you feel like the placement of that and the time of that was good? Because it was kind of it was really tough to beat at like I was at a really low level when I came across it, and like I tried to fight it and it just destroyed me.
Don't they tell you you're not necessarily supposed to fight it, though? Like, sure, it's there, it's in a game, it's blue and all that, but
Yeah.
you didn't have to fight it.
Yeah, and it was kind of like, okay, but the only way to get like better armor was to get like dragon skills and stuff like that.
Yeah.
So it was like, okay, well, this is the first dragon, then obviously I need it, or I need something from it. So it was like, I don't know. You didn't see it enough item collection is what I'm trying to get at, or enough pickups from the creatures themselves. So do you feel like what am I trying to say, like how you collect gear was a problem?
Yeah, there weren't. I felt like there could have been. Now that I'm thinking about it, after the fact, there could have been more drops. Getting better armor was kind of a hassle, and I most of the time, I would keep the same armor for a good majority of the game just because I couldn't find anything I liked better, and I'm really dumb when I play games like that. If I find something that has better stats but it doesn't look as nice, I won't use it.
Okay.
And there wasn't a whole lot of items that looked good and had nice stats. Like I didn't really even like the dragon armor.
Like the dragon steel armor?
Yeah.
Or the
dragon plate,
blood
I think.
steel armor?
I liked the darker variation of the dragon armor.
Okay.
All right, you've been talking about the story a lot, and how I think it's amazing. Would the game still be a good game if it just had a decent story?
It would be an okay game. It would still be pretty good.
So you felt like the gameplay elements still lived up to the mark, even though it mainly focuses on storyline?
The gameplay is not the best. It's pretty good. The story is, in my opinion, the best part of the game. Would I personally still like it if the story wasn't as good? Yeah, because I like the fantasy setting, but I wouldn't have played it nearly as much if the story wasn't as good.
I guess the last question I had was, you mentioned a lot about choice and how much choice there is, and it's a fine line as a developer to balance, because too much choice can be overwhelming to the player, and as well, it's really hard work for the developers, and there's the more choices you put into the game, the less content the player will see the first time, right? Because they'll have to replay to see what would have happened if I made the other decision, unless you make more shallow choices, where it's sort of the same either way. It's just faction A helps you and B hates you, or B helps you and A hates you, right? So, do you feel like they struck a good balance? Like, should there have been more? Could there have been less?
There might have been too many. To get all the achievements, you have to at least play through 4 times, or at least get 4 different endings. That might be a bit much to some players. More casual players might be put off by having so many choices, but I think hardcore RPG players will really like it. So it depends on the player. Well, maybe not really. Maybe just having a little less would have been better for everyone. It would have been a better balance and appealed to more people.
Anything else from anyone else? Mark?
Do you think there could have been more dialogue while you were visiting your companion camp, or do you think there was a perfect amount after every single main quest you did that day?
I felt that there was a good amount, because if you went to every companion, you would spend quite a bit of time talking to them. And I feel like if there's more, it would, you wouldn't want to just sit there that long talking to everyone.
Back to the gameplay part. How the story and your choice making. How well was it balanced with combat or other gameplay? Like in Mass Effect, the battles were less often, and it was more exploring and dialogue for me when I played through. Is how well is it broken up in the game?
It's broken up kind of. It's kind of similar to Mass Effect. There'll be a lot of battles, but in between all the major ones, there's more development with the story. And after like every major quest, then you see a lot of character development. It's really, really similar to Mass Effect.
Right. Yeah. Does it depend on how much time you plan on taking forward the character development, or can you just go straight to battle?
Yeah, you can just completely ignore everything in the camp and go on.
Okay.
Like you don't have to be friendly with anyone. You can just ignore them all.
Yeah, in Mass Effect, it would be like just never going to the Normandy.
And then you don't
Yeah.
request.
Yeah. Parker, did you have a question? I thought I saw your hand up.
How many people do you have in your party?
In the party while you're playing, it's three other people. Yeah.
What was your favorite?
Well, 3 total people, right?
3 extra.
Or is it 3
Is
extra?
it 3 with?
Now I can't
It's
remember.
you
Or
plus
4.
the other 4.
So 4 and all.
Yeah.
Okay.
Who was your team?
My team?
The dog.
I didn't really use the dog.
Oh.
I didn't like him in combat.
Oh.
I usually had Zevran, Morgan, and Shale. I think all.
Okay. So I had, what did I do? I did Shale, Morgan, what was the word name?
Ogren. Ogren.
Yeah, and
The drunk dwarf.
Yeah, and they were all that. But you don't get the golem until like.
Yeah.
Was that like DLC?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Apparently the character is really good. I haven't played through
Well,
one.
he's so cheap. He's such a tank. It's so cheap. Golem, go.
I would always make, is his name Alistair? I
Yeah.
always make him my tank.
Because, yeah, he started Shield.
Yeah,
So.
yeah. Good boy.
Right, there's a character in there. That was my favorite.
Mm-hmm.
Colt, spoilers. How did you, spoilers, how did you kill Morgan's mom? Because I have not.
You couldn't do that. I just killed her.
Well, figure it out.
You.
So hard.
How do you
Yeah. You have to have a really good tank that can aggro her and take a lot of damage, and then you have to have really high damage output too.
Because I can kill the Archdemon easy, but when it comes to her mom, it's like, okay, I'm like, I can't do this. Like, this is hard.
Yeah. Yeah, I usually go Shale, and then I'm a mage, and then I'll have Zevron because he has high DPS, and the last one I just usually choose whoever I use the most that playthrough.
What was the hardest boss?
The hardest boss is probably her mom. Yeah, her mom's really tough.
I was stuck on Brood Mode.
That one was kind of difficult too.
With the one at the temple?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, dude, I destroyed the heck out of her. Like those stunts at the end, when you like kill them, especially when you're a warrior, like you do a bunch of action moves and you slice.
Oh,
a bunch
you
of
do
stuff. Yeah.
Yeah.
You gotta really pay attention to your party on the Brood Mother because they can go down easily and you won't notice.
Cause do they? I think she spawns like Darkspawn.
Yeah, Darkspawn come out of the tunnels in the back of the room.
Yeah. Makes sense.
Yeah, I just-
Oh.
Yeah,
Alright, well,
wanted to get it.
I need to install.
I guess we'll wrap it there. So thank you very much.
Dragon Age?